They believed that Jesus was bringing back the glory days of Israel, taking them back to when King David was on the throne and they were a powerful nation. Because for the last 200 years, Israel had not been a powerful nation. They had actually been occupied by the Roman government. And the Roman government was brutal to the Jewish people. They persecuted the Jewish people. They threw them in jail. They even killed them without recourse. And so the people were looking for this king. They were looking for this Messiah who would come and push out the Romans, who would again bring Israel back to its glory days, its powerful days. So you can understand their misunderstanding when Jesus rides in on a donkey. They thought their king had come. And for good reason, too. Because when a conquering force rode into a town, they would usually ride in on a horse to show their strength. But when a king came in on a donkey, that meant that there was peace in the land. There was going to be peace. He was a person of peace, bringing peace to the people. So the people saw and heard what they wanted to hear. Jesus was their king. But they had a misunderstanding on what that meant. People misunderstanding who Jesus is and what Jesus teaches is not just something that happened in Jerusalem some 2,000 years ago. It's something that still happens today. Right now on TV, there are all the specials, all the shows about Jesus and his ministry. And it's really interesting to sit and listen and watch these shows and hear the different ideas about who Jesus is and what his teachings meant. For some people, they think that Jesus is a communist revolutionary whose teachings are meant to overthrow the government, the powerful, and to redistribute the wealth. For others, they believe Jesus is part of the right-wing moral majority who's always backing the conservative policies and the conservative candidates. For some people, they think that Jesus is a fix-it man. Somebody that is at your beck and call that you can bring in when something's wrong at the house or something's wrong in your marriage or somebody is really, really sick. Then we bring Jesus in, he fixes it, and we send him on his way. For other people, Jesus is like a cosmic lottery machine. Just pray the right prayer and Jesus will give you anything you want. A Lamborghini? $1 million? No problem. Just ask Jesus. And for still others, Jesus is the hard-charging drill sergeant, yelling at us on how to live the right way. Mercy is for sissies with this Jesus, because this Jesus helps those who help themselves. Now, does Jesus teach about giving to the poor and being generous? He does. And does Jesus teach about living a moral life? He does. Does Jesus teach about answering prayer and healing people? He does. But is that all Jesus teaches? Is that all he says? Is that all he did? Or is that just what we want to hear? Because then we can make Jesus what we want him to be for us. We can manipulate Jesus to be who we want him to be instead of meeting him as he is. People manipulating and misunderstanding Jesus. It's not just something that happened 2,000 years ago. It's something that still happens today. Maybe even for us. But people miss the point. People miss the point of why Jesus came in to Jerusalem on a donkey. And the point was this. He was coming in as a king. And he was coming in to bring peace. And he was coming in to overthrow a powerful force. But just not the way the people thought. Jesus came to Jerusalem that day to be the King of peace. God's King of peace. God's King of mercy. Jesus came into Jerusalem that day to show that he was the ruler. He was the king. But he didn't rule in a castle. And he didn't come to overthrow a government or a country. Jesus came to rule in our hearts and in our lives. He came to rule us personally. But as I said, Jesus did come to overthrow powers. Jesus came to bring peace and victory to the people. And he came to bring peace and victory to you. Jesus came as your king to overthrow the power of sin in your life. So that sin that bothers you, that thing that is stuck, that you just can't beat, that shame that you carry, that guilt that is still there, that's what Jesus came to overthrow for you. And Jesus came to give you victory. Victory over death itself, so that you know that death is not the end, but instead, eternal life is the end for us. And Jesus came to overthrow evil in our world. He came to overthrow the power of the devil in our lives. As I said, Jesus came as a king. He came to overthrow powers in our lives. Not a country, but things that we are dealing with. And Jesus came to bring you peace. He rode in on that donkey to show that he was bringing peace to his people. He was bringing peace to you. So that now you don't have to worry and wonder, what do I have to do to make God happy? In Jesus, God made himself happy with you. God is happy with you. He's crazy about you. You are the most precious thing to him. And in Jesus, you have the peace of knowing that sin is gone. You are a perfect child of God in Jesus. And you have the peace of knowing that God loves you so much that he is going to do anything and everything, including send his own son, to make sure that you are part of his kingdom. People misunderstanding who Jesus is and why Jesus came. As I said, it's not just something that happened back 2,000 years ago. It's still something that happens for us. But I want you leaving today understanding this. I want this point to be clear. Jesus came as God's mercy to you. Jesus came as God's peace to you. Jesus came as God's grace, his forgiveness, his love for you. Jesus came for you. And this week, Holy Week, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, this week is for you. Amen. gospel of Jesus Christ for us. We respond with our gifts and our offerings. And if you would also take a moment just to fill out the blue worship register, which is there in your row with you. It just lets us know